Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nikita Elizabeth Roy, a psychologist at UNOYA, and I'm thrilled to be your host for the day's exploration into the world of understanding and achieving balance. Let me just say that I'm absolutely delighted to see you all from diverse fields with us today. It actually speaks volumes of how important you consider well being to be. And let me tell you, this is a step in the right direction. Before we kick off, as we recently celebrated International Women's Day, I would like you all to take a moment and think about a woman who's made a positive impact on your work life. A colleague, a mentor, a friend, or even someone you admire from afar. Please feel free to share a few words about this person who has been a source of inspiration for you. You can either do it in the chat box, or if you're up for it, you can even unmute yourself and speak a few words. Anyone, it can be your colleague or even your friend, any woman who has actually inspired you in your work life. It's okay. I guess a lot of people are still joining. But anyway, I'm certain that even if we have inhibitions to talk, but still, when I asked you to think of someone who inspires you, I'm sure all of you might have thought at least of one woman who has been a source of inspiration in your life. So word let's move forward with this experience in our mind. So, throughout the next hour, you will all gain valuable insights on understanding work life balance, challenges, and strategies to achieve it. Before we jump into today's fascinating talk, I'd like to take a moment to introduce two key players who have made this event possible. Firstly, let me introduce our wonderful organization, UNOSYS, and emphasizing sustainability and social responsibility through our unique services. And I'm proud to share that Inoya has been recognized by Silicon India magazines as one of the 10 most promising corporate wellness consultants from GCC. And a few months back, Unoya was also awarded the People's Favorite Award 2023 by Visa's She's Next. Next, I would like to introduce our inspiring and distinguished speaker, Dr. Rani Susan Abraham. She holds a PhD in psychology and boasts over 25 years of global experience as a psychotherapist, counselor, trainer, coach, and special educator. With a gold medal in both graduate and master's program in psychology from the University of Kerala, she specializes in areas such as teen issues, intelligences, personality, and stress. Her expertise extends to counseling and guidance, cognitive behavioral therapy, family constellation therapy, and more. Previously, Dr. Rani has served as a consultant psychologist at renowned institutions like Columbia as Asia Hospitals and as an employee wellness expert at corporate levels. She currently practices as an expert consultant psychologist at Heal the Minds, an online mental health service portal based in Bangalore, India. Her professional repertoire includes coaching, counseling, and conducting mental health awareness workshops. With a focus on mental health screening and counseling support, Dr. Rani's specialties encompass a wide range of issues, including depression, anxiety, anger management, employee well being, premarital relationship issues, adolescent and teen issues, elder care, child care, parenting issues, and many more. So, without further ado, Let's dive into the session with our esteemed speaker. Kind note, please type in your questions in the chat box and our team will curate them for our Q&A session. Over to you, Dr. Rani.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. A big thanks to my support, Nikita and Sarah, for all the work on the backgrounds. I'm happy to be here, and I hope all of you are able to hear me and see me. Can we see a on the chat box if there's any issue or if everything's okay? Thumbs up. All cool? Striking a balance. So today's topic, moving towards women's well-being at work and home. I added home because that's key, right? It's such a key topic in today's world, especially post-COVID work environment. So much happening, so many changes, and everyone's in a state of flux. Kids' life has changed. Parents who are working finds it difficult to manage, and at the same time, they have to. You have no choice. When you think about how to manage, is when an expert or a professional comes into the picture. I just want today to be about what to do, how do we move forward, and I just want you to come in here with a very present and amenable heart. And we'll just go through the agenda or goals for the session today. We work on getting a clarity on what work-life balance means to you. And I would like to give some tips on identifying your stressors, but finding your external definitions, which is a word that we will be using quite often today, and an intro into the life balance wheel. And then we try to negotiate a new work life balance for you, figuring out what would actually bring you the most satisfaction and bring you the most balance in life. We will go back or leave the session with one action item. And of course, we'll have a question answer session at the end. As Nikita said, we'd welcome any questions in the chat. And if anyone wants to speak, you're free to unmute and button and tell us if we need to speak. Yeah. So a female employee faces more difficulties between work and life than a male employee. This is not something I said. This is the result of many studies. I can quote many. But the problem, however, is that the popular notions of work-life balance are very individualistic and still place the onus on women to find the solution. The struggles they face as a result of donning multiple hats tend to be beneficial to the society, I guess. It's years of conditioning and generational trauma that a woman has to go through. This upholds a pattern where society refuses to acknowledge its complex nature, and thus women becomes a bit overburdened, and generally we avoid the core concerns and we keep trudging on knowing that there's an issue but not really figuring out what the problem is. They feel tired and they feel trudged down, but they still continue because that's what they have been told to do. So work life balance, coming to the actual term work life balance or work life harmony, it is all about an individual's ability to schedule their professional and personal hours to live a very healthy life physically and mentally. So, to repeat, it's about harmonizing your professional life and personal life. I'm assuming that most of us here are working people and or on the verge of finding jobs, and I hope that the session is useful to kind of bring some sense of harmony or begin to make sense of what we can do to bring a sense of harmony. Remember, this is not an overnight process. Remember, there's no magic pill that can turn, but we need to make the effort, right? And let's start with that. Now let's like kind of identify what could be some of the main causes of poor work-life balance. And as we go through each slides, you could actually make notes and try to put down what identifies most with you. So some of them I have noted down. There are so many more, but the key points being pretty poor time management for sure. I think a lot of us struggles with that. The long working hours, probably the rigidity of the job because there's no flexibility and there's kind of like you have to stick to a particular pattern and you have no other go. Responsibilities for most women, if they have children at home, and the responsibilities that they have to take care of home, discomfort generally at workplace, microaggressions, um, gendered emotions. I mean, basically what they face with regard to lack of inclusiveness, and mainly this concept of lack of support, I would say, is a huge aspect that causes imbalance for a woman. So the lack of support both at work and home, and of course many more, leading to stress and impacts the mental and physical health and relationships. Yeah. So what are the effects of this, right? Poor imbalance, and what kind of general effects do we see? How it manifests, and once you realize how it manifests, you have to find how to recognize it. An imbalanced work life can hamper one's mental peace and lead to a lot of mental health issues, and of course, physiological issues too. Physical effects could be sleep disturbances, lack of sleep, fatigue and exhaustion, headaches and migraines, digestive problems, increased risk of cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure, general sweats, anxiety. The mental effects would include increased stress and anxiety, burnout. These are all words that we know. I do not want to sit here and explain each one of it because it'll be too silly to, unless you really want me to. I'm assuming that we know each of this as we probably have gone through it at some point in time. Reduced job satisfaction, irritability and mood swings, feelings of guilt and regret, and of course, a key word that is being used left, right, and center these days, and which is like very worrisome, and which is depression. So I'm going to put forth a quick checklist. If you have a notepad and a pen, let's do it before we move forward, right? Let's identify what it is that you would be looking out for to see if your work life balance is out of sync or if it's in sync. Yeah. So I'm going to go through the questions quickly and you can note it down, and you need to score it on the number of statements that is applicable to you. It's true or false. So I find myself spending more and more time on work related projects instead of home and balancing both. I often feel I don't have any time for myself or for my family and friends. No matter what I do, it seems that often every minute of every day is always scheduled for something. Sometimes I feel as though I've lost sight of who I am and why I chose my job, career. I can't remember the last time I was able to find the time to take a day off to do something fun, something just for me. I feel stressed out most of the time. I wish I had more time for some outside interests and hobbies, but I simply don't. I often feel exhausted even early in the week. Usually, I work through my lunch break. I've missed many of my family's important events because of work related time pressures and responsibilities. I always bring work home with me. I feel like I have little or no control over my work life. I regularly enjoy hobbies or interests outside of work. I frequently think about work when I'm not working. My family is frequently upset with me about how much time I spent working. So, why did I read these out? Because these are all valid points that we go through every day. And I just want you to zoom into the problems that you could be facing at some point and you fail to identify it. I'm going to give you a few seconds to kind of uh, make a score. And if you want to type in your scores, and you say if you scored 0 to 2, your life is in pretty good balance. Just be sure what you can do to guard that balance. If it's 3 to 5, your work life balance is kind of teetering on the edge. Now is the time to make changes, and you're at the right place at the right time before the problems overwhelm you. 5 plus, your life is definitely out of balance, and you need to take immediate action to make changes in your work and, of course, seek support and help. Good news. Yes. Is it possible to achieve work life balance? Definitely. Of course it is. We should be trying hard. It's not something, like I said, that you can achieve overnight, but it needs some serious introspection and planning. We hear so much funda, we hear so much theory, we hear so much of what work life balance is about and how it can be achieved. But do we really have modules, action steps that zooms in to how you can go about beginning, right? I say beginning to recognize what is right or wrong in your work life scenario. So that's basically what I aim to do here, and that is why you need to do some serious introspection and planning. And I really want you to kind of like relax yourself into your seats and um, ground yourself a bit if you can. um, Shake it up, relax, and I want both of your feet on the ground. And we move forward with much more than just terms and theories. We move forward with help to help ourselves or to help someone near and dear to you. The balance that we talk about, right? Like this work life balance that we talk about is also very fluid. If you feel well balanced today, another life situation the next day could make it all upset again. So you just cannot, it just doesn't exist on its own or continuously, or, it can go in and out. So keep that in mind. The idea here is to find how well you are able to manage the balance at present, right? And being present, being in the moment is what we are looking at. The points that we will generally ponder on are things that probably have been put together very differently, and might not even know what is connected to what and how each of it is connected to anything. But I just want to read it out to you as external definitions: life balance wheel, fulfillment in life. We work with meaningful goals and boundaries later on as we actually try to figure out how we can go about achieving work life balance now. Identifying and discarding external definitions. This is so very important to understand how are we actually defining ourselves. Is it externally, or are we defining ourselves with some internal models? And what do I mean by external and internal is probably what you're wondering, right? So external will be things like what other people say for me, what are the salary expectations, what has my mom wanted me to do, what does my husband want me to do. Those are the external definitions of why you do what you want to do. Extremely healthy work life balance generally works with internal internal definitions of life. And for that, you need to find your values. And what are values? Values of what you have seen growing up, probably, right? And you probably have unconsciously identified it as your own. External circumstances, like I said, can keep changing, like job, salary. So take what works for you and just try and take in the internal definitions and what we can work with on the internal definitions. We will be better off that way. I assure you. So basically, how do we find these values? How many of you knows what your values are? Your really, real, down to earth internal values are. And I've given a few steps that you can start off with your on your paper. Like step one would be to identify and write down some of your most valued connections, right? Like some of them would be like some role models that you have adapted, some person that you've always admired and you wanted to be like them, or some events that occurred in your life and you've learned how to handle it and you know that that works. So step two would be to think of the values that these role models embody. Step three would be to use a values inventory, as in you can find a values inventory online and find a whole list of internal values that you can actually use the words and try to figure out. Step four is keep a journal, keep writing every day and try and see how you kind of like zooms into you exactly what you are made of and what you want your life to be like. Step five is if you look at your day or if you look at the past week, think about some of the peaks in your life and the lows in your life and the events or the people who actually helped you or reach that peak experience or that happiness, or what happened when you were feeling low, why did you feel low, identify them and note them down. And that's one of the ways in which you can actually figure out what is it that makes you tick. Introspection, that is like the key to this, basically looking into yourself and within yourself and finding yourself. And as I always say, you can only change yourself and you can only affect the space around you. Anything beyond that is out of your control. So here, you're only going to zoom into yourself, and there's no concept of why can't this person help me, or why can't they help more at home? Why can't my managers support me? Why can't? But no, unless you help yourself and you figure out what you want, you're not going to be able to communicate what you want in the proper way and lead you into a much more wholesome life that you're balanced life that you're looking for. So the next concept that I want you to look at is the life balance wheel. We use this a lot in our coaching techniques. So if you look at the screen and if you see the wheel, you actually identify for yourself a few categories that makes the most impact of how you're living your life. Right? Those categories could be your friends, your family, fitness and health, career, personal and spiritual growth, romance and relationships, money, physical environment that you live in, your home, your fun, recreation that you do, anything, right? So you can fix up your categories according to your um, life and how the life scenario is. So fix a few categories. In this, there are 8, and you will see a few numbers, and you assess yourself on each of these categories and mark them on that wheel of where you find yourself in that space of how you kind of like gauge you are at this present moment, right? So you adjust the categories and you rate the current state. Now, this is what it would actually look like, right? It would be how once you rate on the lines, on the numbers, you connect the dots, and this is the wheel of life essentially, and see how well balanced it is. Or so you can do this, and this is a really good way to understand how your life stays in balance and how much of a balance you're able to maintain at this point in time. And it gives you a clear idea about where you want to improve. How you want to go about it is something else, that is for another session entirely. So after you've done this, you have to try and imagine a future ideal state, right? Like you would want it to be. Journal about it, write about it, and then keep assessing. Use the life wheel as much as you can. So the after the life definitions or the external definitions, we dealt with the balance. Now we go on to defining fulfillment and success to yourself, right? We all want to be fulfilled. We hear the term fulfillment so much. Everyone speaks about fulfillment. I want to be fulfilled. I want to have a purpose in life, and I want to be successful, right? But what is success? What is fulfillment for you? Right? And how do you find it? We go back to the value system and figure out where are your peak experiences, where are the highest lows, right? And the questions that you can ask yourself is, how connected are you to your job? How committed are you to the family? And how much does friends mean to you? And how much do you miss hobbies, or how much of your hobbies do you actually work with? These are some of the questions that you can keep asking and continue to ask yourself at every point. So basically, these are the key points that we have to look into, right? And these are the introspection that is expected from you. And how do we get it right? And after we introspect and after we figure it out, and after the next question is like, how do I go about it? It's not an overnight process. I do not have a magic pill to give you, but I can give you a few pointers on how we can go about it. And again, I have a lot of bullet points here, and I would like you to make a, note of what you actually do and how much you actually do on a scale of 1 to 10, so that, like, exactly what you need to develop on. So we'll start with learning to disconnect. We speak about disconnecting all the time, right? Everyone speaks about disconnecting, and mostly from uh, media, mostly from your telephones and laptops, from anything that kind of like ties you down. But then nobody tells you how to disconnect. What do you do to disconnect? You have to identify, you have to make a schedule of how much time you're actually, a quick way to disconnect would be to make a schedule of how much time you're actually spending online. And the phones, the applications these days have these set apps which tells you that, like tells you how much time you have been online today. So try using that to the maximum, and keep your phone or your devices away as much as you can, so that it's scheduled. You keep hearing this, disconnect, 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 but it's about scheduling it. You have to schedule the disconnect. And how do you schedule the disconnect? According to your routine. If your kids are home at a particular point in time, that has to be your schedule to disconnect, right? So zoom into whichever suits you the best. If you're online for 8 hours today, please, tomorrow you try to be online only for 7.5 hours. That's how you disconnect. You kind of like ease into it. Professional development, right? Keep improving yourself, keep learning, keep adding certificates, keep doing whatever it takes to keep learning. And every moment and everything that you enjoy, keep doing it to advance your professional development. Celebrate achievements, enjoy it. How do we celebrate achievements? Identify it yourself, right? And is it just a pat on the back, or do you just go about your day-to-day routine? Do you actually make it a point to celebrate? If you don't celebrate your own achievements, nobody else is going to do that for you. Therapeutic support, seek help. We are here for a purpose, and basically subjective support is not what we mean, right? Speaking to your mom every day, speaking to your friends every day, great work, but use professionals to give you a coach or therapist to give you some absolutely objective professional points to help you move forward. Of course, you must have heard this so many times. Practice mindfulness. Take a deep breath as we do this. Again, relax your body, shake yourself a bit. I hope your feet are on the ground and practice being in the here and the now. You are drinking a cup of coffee. Take the cup, hold the cup, and look at the coffee. Take it to your mouth. Smell the coffee. Take the sip and enjoy it, right? Those are the minimum that you can do. Start with the minimum. When you're in the shower, practice mindfulness. When you're eating, practice mindfulness. When you first get up in the morning, get up with the thought that you're going to actually be mindful today. Say a word of affirmation, a word of prayer, or whatever fits your values, go with that. Another very key thing is to develop healthy habits. And what do you mean by healthy habits? Is it what's healthy for you? No. There are definite healthy habits that you can follow and make. What I would say is write down what you're already doing, because you think you might be doing everything healthy. But actually, when you start noting them down, when you start journaling your day to day schedule of what you're up to each moment in the day, is when you realize that there are a lot of things, a lot of stuff that you can actually do without, which actually brings you down. Tech free time is again connected to learning to disconnect, so I won't go into that. Hobbies and creative outlets is also part of learning and development. One hobby is for sure what you need to. How many of you really have time to practice one hobby? Anything. A dance class, a music class, a drawing lesson, a psychology 101 session, anything, right? Find one hobby and continue to do that. Positive affirmations every day, write them down and go. Regularly reassess. Now, this one, establishing clear boundaries, is something that is being spoken about so much. And how do we actually go about doing that is what I want to tell you. Clear boundaries in this context of this session today definitely means how much of your time are you actually balancing between work hours and your personal time, right? Because have you fixed how much time you have for each? And once you fix it, it doesn't mean that you can't go here and there, right? Like you can always manage, adjust, and be flexible. But this has to be according to how you manage your time. It has to be your habits, and it has to be like, for example, I would, even if it's on a holiday, I would still want to check my mails, right? I would really want to check my mails, because I feel like when I come back, it just kind of piles up. Would you want to do that, or do you want to disconnect? Are you the type of person? And that's where we go back to your introspection and realize what is working for you and what's not. Practice saying no, like learn to decline additional tasks whenever necessary. How do you practice saying no? So when you hear something, right, when you're asked to do something, when someone calls you and when you're told to do something, first you have to give it a few moments for it to sink in about what is expected from you and how much of time and effort and work would go into that particular work that the other person is allotting to you, right? And once you know that it doesn't take a big deal of your energy, that's fine. But when you realize that this is going to take away a lot of like I was talking to someone at work the other day, and I came in last minute, and I said, would you set these powerpoints right for me? And she looks at me and she says, okay. But in my mind, I know this is last minute, and I know. But then, because she didn't seem phased, because she didn't say no, I said should be fine. Or should I have asked? Would that be okay? I normally would have, but I was also pushed, and there was a lot of pressure on me too, so I didn't occur to me. And the next day, uh, I got the material, and there was so much work that was done on it, and I realized that I had actually put a lot of pressure on the person, and I shouldn't have done that. And I had a chat with her to say, that's one thing that you need to practice, at least on your face. At least like make sure that that is it going to be okay for you? Are you going to be able to do that? And have a decent conversation. I think most of them are willing and capable to listen. um, so this is about prioritizing your self-care too, right? All of this is about prioritizing your self-care. One of the things that for me and that I really, really advocate is cultivating a support system. When you want to get things right and when you want to do things right, living in a vacuum, living in a bubble is just going to bring you down more and more. While living in so many different geographical locations, I've met so many young women who actually, I mean, who was managing to balance work and home and kids and, with the typical superwoman syndrome. And, like, and they were running around and they were kind of like feeling very proud of themselves. But at the end of the day, how stressed are you? And what do they do to and one of the patterns that I've noticed in most of these women have been that they had established a clear support system, friends, getting kids into like getting friends to take care of their kids. We're getting friends in to bring in, I mean, meet up, at the weekends, meeting them, relaxing. And anyone, like at least one or two persons, this is very important, one or two people in your current life who would know what you are up to, how you're feeling, minimum one for sure, at any point in a day, right? And someone who actually checks in on you if you don't show up, or if, like, someone who checks you check in with every day, like that is something that you can start off with. Time management, heard, been there, done that, heard so much about it. And how do we go about it? Well, first of all, start with um, scheduling your present, or writing down your present schedules, and then attend the next workshop that we kind of like plan. So time management would start with knowing where you're losing time and knowing where you're wasting your time. Please go ahead and start writing down what you're doing at every moment in the day, every half an hour. What have I done? Make a list, and at the end of the day, go back and see which one you could have managed better, right? And that is something which is very relevant and which is very urgent that you need to do now, today. Taking regular breaks, whether it is long breaks at weekends or short breaks for coffee, whether it is holidays, whether it is breaks with friends, anything that actually takes you off your regular routine of family, home, or work. I would highly recommend taking regular breaks. Delegate responsibilities, which is something a lot of us women find it difficult to do because we have to do it our way. It's our way or nothing at all, right? And how many of you actually thinks that the other person cannot really match up to your level of um, what do you call it, efficiency? I've seen mums go home and wash and like putting clothes to wash. Okay, fine, and then it has to be folded in a particular way, right? It has to be put out to dry in just the particular way. So little things like that which you can delegate, please start delegating. At work also, when you know that certain things that another person is willing and has is comes under the role of support, please feel free and please be sure to delegate it and relax yourself a bit. Very important aspect of how to get it right, how to get the balance right is physical activity. If you're not moving, please start moving. If you're not doing something, you're not doing it right. Anything, right? Just start on something. Just, I would recommend learning a new game. I would recommend something which is like, which something that you've always wanted to learn, which is not too stressful. Start with that. Of course, eat well, maintain a balanced diet. How do you maintain a balanced diet again? There are a lot of apps which helps you count your calories and your nutrients that you eat every day. Make a list. It's all about a paper and pen. Again, I think everything comes down to what you put down there, and prioritize sleep. So here, there are a lot of people who have come to me saying that there's a lot of sleeplessness, especially those who have a huge amount of responsibilities at work, and they when they come back home, they have work at home, even with support at home. They're not able to wind down at the end of the day. And it's so easy to say prioritize your sleep, like hit the bed and go to sleep. But find what are the ways in which you can literally, physically, and mentally relax. You need to find what suits you best and go with that. So, prioritizing your rest and relaxation based on which works best for you, again, is what needs to be done. So, it's all very individualistic. If you actually look at any of these, ways to get there, it's all very personal. Please understand what works for your friend might not work for you. You can definitely try. It's like going to a doctor. What a doctor tells your friend would not work for you. It has to be suiting your symptoms. It has to suit your physical state. And so anything that you do, you need to tailor make to yourself. So understanding yourself, introspecting on what you are and how you perform best and what makes you work the best is what you need to work at. So that is the general idea about what all we can do to try and get the work life balance right. It's a progress and it can work. So we come now to the action points that I would like you to go back with today. I would like you to make a list of your top 3 core values. Look at both personal and work life. And I wanted to give you a list of the values. Do we have it somewhere? So again, I go back to the steps that we could do. Identify and write down 6 people who are important role models or valued connections. Think of the values that made you actually think of them. For this, if you can use your phone or your laptop and get a values inventory would be good. Use a values inventory which you can find online. Keep a journal and think about some of the peak and low experiences in your life. So these three core values would be what you identify. And if you have more, please feel free to write more. And then you go out of the room with this in your mind and think, what can you do to make yourself feel better about something that's troubling you today? And how do you work best with that? Please remember how important it is to take care of yourself while you're taking care of others. So I always say that if you have to take care of others, you have to be fulfilled yourself, right? You can only give when there is a filled space within you. Some of the values that I would, uh, would key importance in your day-to-day life would be integrity, acceptance, authenticity. Like basically being yourself and how to go about being that is how you need to introspect at this point in time. So I'd like to invite you now to just a few minutes of relaxation. As we come to the end of the session, I hope you have written down some questions that you would have. Do we have queries?
You can either post your questions on the chat box or you can unmute yourself also.
So let's just take a moment to just relax into your space, sit wherever you're sitting, and close your eyes for a moment. Let go of all that's troubling you. Try to concentrate on your breath. As I say, how do you concentrate on your breath? As you speak to your breath. You say, this is my in breath and this is my out breath. When we breathe in, we will say, this is my in breath, and when we breathe out, this is my out breath. So the moment you feel your thoughts wandering, bring it back and just speak to your breath. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Take a deep breath in, how's my life? How balanced do I feel at this point in my life? Keep breathing in and out. Relax your body. Keep your eyes closed. Feel your body. Feel and be tuned in and be aware of all the physical sensations in your body, the slight tingling in your legs, the chill on your hands. Keep breathing in and out. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Stay. Gently blink your eyes open. Shake yourself a little. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rani, for that insightful talk. Um, so, I'm pretty sure that all of us are like very more knowledgeable about what work life balance is and what all comes under it, especially relating to like understanding our current state concerning our work life balance, knowing what success means to us and what values they are associated with, especially the life balance wheel, and what fulfillment is to us, and essentially on how to help ourselves, as well as actually understand that the process is a slow one, but consistently sticking to it, uh, to the strategies that actually work for you, would also make a difference. So if you have any questions, can post it on the chat box. I like, more than a question, I'm like, I one thing that I thought was, as women, perfectionism, I think, plays a role in, like, delegating responsibilities. I know personally, I feel that perfectionism, for me, is a issue when I come to delegate the responsibilities regarding it. So how do I go about, like, uh, handling that in life?
Being perfect? How to be perfect? Is anyone ever perfect? So essentially, it's about understanding that you're perfectly imperfect and doing steps or finding yourself and realizing again, estimating where are your definitions of validation coming from, right? Is it from yourself or is it from outside? What would, where would it be? Are you asking for validation from outside? Then you can never reach it. But if you're wanting validation and if you find it within yourself, you will get there someday. And that's an uphill struggle, and that's something that you really constantly need to work on. Therapy, coaching, you know, a lot of things like journaling, figuring yourself out, finding what you're about are all ways to go about it. Do I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
If anyone else has a question,